Did previous generations talk about the nobility and worth of owning land more than we do, and the nobility and
of productive work?
Yeah, of work.
See, now, look, I have a lot of retired people in my Sunday school class, Scottsdale Bible Church. But you know what they do? They help others. They're being rich in good works. 1 Timothy 6, 17, 18 says that those who don't have to work to support themselves anymore should be rich in good works. They teach Sunday school class, they work in the nursery, they do counseling, they work in neighborhood ministries to the poor, or they're doing other things to care for others. And so they're rich in good works. So as long as they're productive in something that does good for other people, I think that's good.
And let me comment in that regard. Another thing that Steve Keels, one of my pastors, and I have talked about is the number of young men, and we're very concerned about this, young Christian men who are not working, whose wives are working, and who simply are taking a few classes over here, and once in a while they apply for a job, but we all know that the economy's not good and you just can't get a job, and yet in so many cases they're not trying, and there are a number of minimum wage jobs available they could get, but they don't want to do that kind of work.
I know a lawyer who's working as a clerk at Target, but he's working.
He's working.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do we get a hold of young guys and really teach them work and discipline and diligence? What would you say to us as a church?
Don't support them.
Yeah.
I mean, parents. I'm talking to parents.
Okay.
We had Margaret and I had a difference of opinion regarding one of our sons who took some time out from college, and he was going from job to job, and I think he was hungry. And I said, Margaret, we've got to send him some money. He was in Minnesota, we were in Illinois. Nope, Margaret said, don't do that. And then it dawned on me, I haven't heard of anybody starving in the United States for a long time. So we didn't send him money. And you know what? It was the best thing. It was the best thing that happened. Now,
Yay! Yeah, she's gone.
She was a lot tougher than I was, but it was great. And now, he's married. He's got good job skills, and he's got a job, and he's supporting himself, and they got a little baby, and I'm just so proud of him. But there was a time when it was hard. But we didn't give him money for living expenses. So.
And I would comment too that, and I know this gets us into another area, but I think that some of the downsides of the egalitarian way of thinking in our culture is that it's like the old traditional thing was that a man needed to provide for his family. I think that is a biblical idea. I think that is not just an old tradition, and now, of course, I understand. This isn't, there are a number of women who work part-time with our ministry, and it's not that I think it's wrong for a woman to be out there working. What I think is wrong is for an able-bodied husband to not be working when he could be working. Yep. If there's a temporary situation where a young man is finishing school, yep, and he's working very hard to do it, and he's going to get this out of the way, but the foreseeable goal here, yep, a not too distant future, is that he is going to be the long-term breadwinner for this family. Okay, but in so many cases it's like, and fine, if a husband stays home and watches the kids for a while, that can be healthy. But this idea that it doesn't matter whether dad's out there working or who's home with the kids, and numbers of moms that are separated from their kids during the day, there's just a lot of things in it. And I think it just comes back to providing role models and having men in the church take aside perhaps some of the young men and say, there's a better way here. In fact, maybe you need to quit school, get a job until you can earn up enough money to pay for school to go there part-time as you continue to work and provide for your family.
Yeah, that's good. How about one more question on the government economy thing, and then we'll get on to some other topics. But Wayne, what do you think is the case with China? China doesn't do so well with some of these principles you were talking about, but they currently seem to be okay economically?
Well, under Deng Xiaoping, the prime minister, he decided that a free market system in the economic system, instead of a communist system, would be good. And so he began to allow people to retain the benefit from small plots of land that they could use, and then factories to begin to produce and gain wealth from their production. So he instituted a free market system. Now, they don't have private ownership of land in China. Margaret and I were just there a few months ago. But they do have 40-year leases and 70-year leases on land, which is close to ownership. And you can develop it, and you can gain returns from it. There is no freedom of criticizing the government in China. There's no political freedom. But there is substantial economic freedom. And so they've taken off. They've begun to grow because of other factors that they're following here, and high value on education, high value on work, things like that. Economically, the United States still produces about a fourth. We're 4% of the world's population. We produce about 25% of the world's wealth, about $14 trillion a year. The next largest economy after us, about 1/3 of our size, is Japan. Still, although Japan has been stagnant for many years. And then after that, so if we're 14 trillion, Japan is 5 trillion, China 4 trillion, Germany about 4 trillion, France about 3, United Kingdom 2.5, Italy, Brazil, Russia, smaller. But we're far and away the world's largest economy still. It doesn't mean it's going to last forever.